we have Caitlin, great, and we know how to play with her. If we don't have Caitlin, great, we know how to play without her.
Sophie Cunningham? Yeah. She is deserving of that starting spot.
The Indiana Fever pulled off a game no one saw coming, beating the defending champs without their star player, Caitlin Clark. Sophie Cunningham and the squad showed they're a real force, not just a one-woman show. Stick around. What happened next could shake the entire league and rewrite their destiny.
We really challenged their pride. We did a much better job, and we got better tonight.
Just days after suffering back-to-back losses, the Indiana Fever walked into Gainbridge Fieldhouse with the weight of an entire season pressing down on their shoulders. The buzz around the arena wasn't excitement, it was concern. Their record was a dead-even 12-12, but without Caitlin Clark, the team's heartbeat, most believed the season was spiraling toward disaster. Clark, sidelined with a lingering groin injury, sat on the bench in street clothes. No clear return date, no miracle, save inbound. And for a team that had become the face of the league's resurgence, largely due to Clark's electrifying presence, this felt like a death sentence. Analysts weren't just doubting their playoff hopes anymore. They were rewriting the entire narrative. Without Clark, the Fever are nothing. Social media doubled down on that narrative. Posts went viral mocking the team. Talking heads on TV wrote them off completely. Some even said they should tank the rest of the season and pray for a draft miracle. It was brutal. The consensus was that Clark carried the entire franchise on her back. And now that she was out, the Fever were exposed. Behind the scenes, the vibe was just as tense. Every practice, every film session, every shoot-around was filled with silent questions. Could they win without their superstar? Was anyone else ready to step up? Coach Stephanie White, a fierce competitor in her own right, understood the magnitude of what was coming. This game wouldn't just test her team's skill, it would test their identity. And looming on the other end of the court, none other than the Las Vegas Aces, back-to-back champions, led by last year's MVP Aja Wilson. No one expected mercy from that squad. They smelled blood. They were coming for a statement win. In Indiana, they were expected to fold. But they didn't. Something happened in that locker room before tip-off. And what followed would flip the entire WNBA narrative on its head. To the Las Vegas Aces, this wasn't just another game, it was a golden opportunity. Their swagger was unmistakable as they stepped onto the court, their 12-11 record a deceptive mask for the dangerous core underneath. Aja Wilson, Kelsey Plum, Chelsea Gray, this was a championship roster, stacked and hungry. And when they saw Caitlin Clark wasn't suiting up, they knew exactly what this night could be. This was their chance to humble the hype machine. For the past 2 seasons, Aja Wilson had dominated the league. She was the reigning MVP, a walking highlight reel, a proven champion. But no matter how many titles she won, there was one name dominating headlines, and it wasn't hers. Clark had become the face of the WNBA, the viral phenom, the league's biggest draw. And not everyone in the locker room was thrilled about that. Whether anyone admitted it or not, envy was simmering beneath the surface. Now, with Clark out, Wilson and the Aces had a target in front of them, and no excuses. They came in ready to tear down the Cinderella story and remind everyone what a real dynasty looks like. They didn't just want to beat the Fever, they wanted to embarrass them. Even before the tip, the energy was different. The Aces' body language said it all. Loose, confident, even a little smug. They were already celebrating in their heads. They expected the Fever to roll over without their star, to fall apart under pressure. After all, what was left when you stripped away the headline act? Coach Stephanie White knew that mindset all too well. She'd been around long enough to recognize when a team thought the game was already won. And deep down, she hoped they felt that way. Because overconfidence leaves cracks. Cracks that underdogs can tear wide open. The Aces thought they were about to walk into a blowout. What they didn't realize, Indiana had been waiting for this exact moment. And the response they delivered, it changed everything. For most of the first half, the game felt like a slow-motion collapse waiting to happen. Indiana's offense stumbled out of the gate, and the absence of Caitlin Clark's playmaking was glaring. Passes were mistimed, shots rimmed out, and the crowd at Gainbridge Fieldhouse sat in uneasy silence. It looked like the critics might have been right. Without Clark, this team was rudderless. But then came the third quarter. Coach Stephanie White lit a fire in the locker room during halftime. Her message was clear. You're not here to survive, you're here to take what's yours. No cliches, no sugarcoating, just a challenge. And what happened next wasn't just a response. It was an eruption. Natasha Howard came out like a woman possessed. The veteran forward put her fingerprints on every inch of the court, stripping the ball from all-stars, diving for loose rebounds, and muscling in tough layups through contact. She wasn't flashy, she was ruthless. By the time the quarter ended, she had 18 points, 13 rebounds, and 3 steals. A full-on takeover. Aaliyah Boston followed her lead. The former #1 pick began imposing her will inside, battling through double teams and delivering tough buckets when Indiana needed them most. She wasn't just scoring, she was anchoring the paint, shutting down Vegas drives, and grabbing momentum by the throat. Together, Boston and Howard became a wall the Aces couldn't crack. Then came the moment that changed the entire feel of the game. With the shot clock winding down, Kelsey Mitchell, who'd been ice cold all night, took a handoff at the top of the arc. No hesitation, no second guessing. She exploded toward the rim, danced past 2 defenders, and finished through contact as the buzzer blared. And just like that, the crowd roared back to life. It wasn't just a bucket, it was a declaration. The Fever dropped 27 points in the third quarter, holding the Aces to just 15. What started as survival turned into domination. And suddenly, everyone watching realized this team wasn't falling apart. They were just getting started. Kelsey Mitchell had heard it all before. Too streaky, disappears in big games, can't carry the load when it counts. For years, critics painted her as a high-volume scorer who couldn't be trusted in the clutch. And as the first half unfolded against the Aces, she did little to silence them. Miss after miss, frustration etched across her face. The same doubts echoed through the crowd. Through 3 quarters, she was shooting an ugly 4 for 19 from the field. But Coach Stephanie White never flinched. During a timeout, White leaned in close and delivered just 7 words that would change everything. Let it fly, it's going to go. No lectures, no clipboard, just belief. Mitchell nodded, and something in her shifted. The fourth quarter was hers. Mitchell came out with a fire that couldn't be taught. She wasn't forcing shots anymore. She was controlling the game. Pull-up jumpers? Cash. Blistering drives to the rim? Unstoppable. Crossovers into step-back threes? Cold-blooded. The Aces' defense, once suffocating, looked rattled and slow. Mitchell had found her rhythm, and she was punishing anyone who dared to contest her. She dropped 9 points in the final 12 minutes, going 4 for 5 in the quarter and slicing up Las Vegas's backcourt with surgical precision. But it wasn't just about scoring. Mitchell started making plays, dishing to cutters, drawing double teams, setting the table for everyone around her. Her 4 assists tied for the team high, and every single one came at a critical moment. This wasn't just a stat-padding performance, it was a statement. Mitchell was answering the call in real time, with the pressure boiling and the season on the line. And the fans? They felt it. Every bucket brought the building to its feet. Every dagger 3 was met with an eruption. When the final buzzer sounded, Mitchell had 21 points, and not a single critic left standing. She didn't just redeem herself, she flipped the entire narrative. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't playing in Clark's shadow. She was leading the charge. The fourth quarter had already flipped the game on its head, but it needed a finisher, a closer, someone with ice in their veins and a chip on their shoulder, and that would be none other than Sophie Cunningham. If you only checked the box score, you'd miss her impact. But anyone watching knew Cunningham was the spark plug, the agitator, and the dagger all in one. She played like someone who had something to prove, and judging by the way she glared down defenders and barked after every big play, she meant it. The moment that set everything off, with just over 2 minutes left, Vegas had clawed their way back to within 5. The Fever needed a bucket. Cunningham came flying off a down screen, caught the ball at the wing, and launched a 3 with a defender right in her grill. Swish. Nothing but net. She backpedaled with a smirk and a shout, fired up, locked in, and radiating confidence. You could feel the shift. Vegas looked stunned. The Fever looked unfazed. It wasn't just the points, it was the energy she injected into every possession. Then came the clincher. With 45 seconds left and Indiana clinging to a slim lead, the Aces collapsed on Mitchell at the top of the key. She kicked it out to Cunningham in the corner, wide open. The ball floated. The arena held its breath. Bang! Another 3. That shot didn't just extend the lead, it broke the Aces' will. And the best part? Cunningham let them hear about it. She clapped, she pointed, she grinned like she knew it was over. This wasn't just confidence, it was killer instinct. The kind of performance that doesn't show up on a stat sheet but echoes long after the final buzzer. She finished with 8 points, 2 threes, and more emotional momentum than anyone on the court. In a game where the stars were either missing or misfiring, it was Sophie Cunningham who became the unexpected assassin. And the Fever? They fed off every second of it. This wasn't supposed to happen. No Caitlin Clark, no superstar safety net, no national spotlight to fuel the crowd. By all logic, the Indiana Fever should have crumbled, especially against a powerhouse like the Las Vegas Aces. But instead of folding, they forged something new, an identity. Without Clark, the ball moved differently. It wasn't stuck in anyone's hands. It didn't wait for a logo 3 or a flashy highlight. It zipped, it flowed, everyone touched it, everyone contributed, and everyone mattered. For the first time all season, the Fever looked less like a team built around one phenom, and more like a team, period. Nalissa Smith was the foundation, bullying defenders inside, snatching rebounds like they belonged to her. Kelsey Mitchell turned into the leader fans had always hoped she'd become. Aaliyah Boston quietly dominated the paint and made Aja Wilson work for every inch. And Sophie Cunningham? She became the emotional heartbeat, the edge, the spark that lit everything up. Even players like Temi Fagbenley and Erica Wheeler stepped up with scrappy defense, smart passes, and hustle plays that don't make highlight reels but win basketball games. Everyone bought in, everyone sacrificed. there was a calmness too. No need to force things through Clark, no pressure to manufacture ESPN-worthy moments, just basketball, raw, physical, smart basketball. The kind that wins in June and matters even more in August. That's not a knock on Clark. She's a generational talent and the face of the franchise. But this game was a reminder. The Fever are more than Caitlin Clark. They're deeper, grittier, hungrier than anyone expected. And maybe, just maybe, they needed this moment to realize it. This wasn't just another win, it was a warning shot. The Indiana Fever didn't just beat the defending champs, they did it without their star. And they did it with poise, grit, and a kind of fearlessness that turns heads across the league. This wasn't a fluke. It wasn't luck. It was a declaration. We're not just Clark's team, we're a problem, together. For the Aces, the loss stings deeper than just a number in the L column. They were outworked, out-hustled, and, at times, outplayed by players they likely underestimated. Aja Wilson had her moments, but the supporting cast folded under Indiana's intensity. And that says something, because Indiana didn't just survive, they punched up. And now, the rest of the WNBA has to reckon with it. Because if the Fever can take down Las Vegas without Caitlin Clark, what happens when she's back? What happens when you add one of the most electric playmakers in the world to a team that's finally found its identity, its swagger, and its fire? That's the question every coach is now asking, and every fan is waiting to see. The Fever made a statement, not with headlines, not with hype, with heart. They walked into a new version of themselves. In a league packed with star power and legacy dynasties, this was a night that flipped the script. No Caitlin Clark? No problem. Indiana proved that they're more than just one name. They're a unit, a team with bite, a team that plays with something to prove, and now, proof that they can back it up. From Sophie Cunningham's fire to Nalissa Smith's dominance, from Aaliyah Boston's quiet control to the relentless hustle of the role players, this was a full squad performance. And now, the Fever aren't just chasing wins, they're chasing respect. And here's the kicker, they're doing it together. So to the rest of the WNBA, take note. The Fever have found their rhythm, their fight, and maybe even their future. With or without Clark on the floor, this team is coming. And they're not asking for your permission.